So we've pretty much gotten used to having the VGAs at the end of the year, every year now for a while, where we get to see what the game of the year is, and then of course a bunch of other categories. Some you probably care more about than others. Obviously things like RPG of the year, action game of the year. Those are games that we usually keep an eye on to see who wins, and of course game of the year. And then we also get little announcements. Now, I do think the show has become better over time. It's certainly become much more expensive and much more professional looking as they've gone along. And they've been trying to secure big announcements, which we saw last year. If you remember, Nintendo showed up in force there last year. Now, of course, that was still the first year for the Nintendo Switch, and it seemed like a year that they were just going all out, right? They were pushing heavy, and well, they probably had a lot of time to build for that year with the Wii U pretty much falling off, and they mostly stopped making games at all for the Wii U, and they had time to build up for that first year, so it wasn't a surprise that they came out swinging in 2017, and that's still what a lot of us look at as one of the best years in gaming. So here come the Video Game Awards at the end of 2017, and they show up with some big stuff. Remember, they released the final DLC for Zelda Breath of the Wild that night. Remember, they announced it. They showed Link with his like motorcycle and everything, and it was there. You could go download it tonight. That was a big deal. I remember people freaked out when we saw that, and it was a really, really cool announcement. But then they also showed something else. Remember, they had the Bayonetta collection, Bayonetta 1 and 2, and we thought, oh, that's great. DLC for Breath of the Wild, and then Bayonetta collection 1 and 2. Those are pretty good announcements. Maybe that means that, you know, in the distant future, maybe E3 will get Bayonetta 3. Well, no. Then they stopped and said, we have more. Bayonetta 3. Boom. So in that one Video Game Awards show, which this took place in the span of what, 10 or 15 minutes, if that, Zelda Breath of the Wild, big DLC, Bayonetta 1 and 2 collection, Bayonetta 3. And now everyone is looking towards this year's Video Game Awards. We haven't really heard anything until now. You're seeing a tweet in front of you now from Geoff Keighley that just says, see you in December, and would you look at that? There's Reggie. Now, I'm sure some games for Nintendo will be nominated for some categories. Keep in mind, Smash Bros. Will actually fall outside of the cutoff period, but something like Xenoblade, I'm sure will be nominated for like RPG of the Year. And then they'll probably have some stuff with their sports games and other games. Maybe Octopath Traveler has some representation there as well for RPG of the Year. That's interesting. You might see Xenoblade 2, Xenoblade 2's DLC, and Octopath all in one category. That'd be interesting. I wonder if Dragon Quest XI will also fall in there. Anyway, Reggie is going to be there apparently, as we're seeing with this tweet that Geoff Keighley put out. And then of course everyone freaked out because he's wearing a Metroid shirt that he did not cover up very well, almost on purpose maybe. Who knows? There's a good chance that he's just trolling us, you know, like, hey look, you know, Metroid. Did you guys see that Metroid pin that I wore? You know, a few years ago and let everyone down with that announcement. Well, here's a Metroid shirt that I'm trying to cover up, but not quite. I don't know if Metroid is going to be at this Video Game Awards show. Would I like to see it? Yes, but I will at least tell you this. Nintendo is announcing something at the Video Game Awards. I can tell you that much. That is happening. Now, what are they going to announce? Well, we have a lot of rumors to go by, and then we can talk about our own predictions, because last year they definitely showed up with a lot more than any of us thought. The Breath of the Wild DLC made sense, but to then show up with 2 Bayonetta games, 3 technically with the collection, there's 2 there, but you know what I'm saying, 2 SKUs there. We got the Bayonetta 3 and Bayonetta 1 and 2 collection, and then the Breath of the Wild DLC. It was a lot, so maybe we could take a look at this year's and figure out some stuff that they could announce, and I'm curious what you guys will have down in the comments as well. That'll be an interesting read to see what you guys think could show up here, because there's a lot of stuff that they can announce that we probably don't even know about. So something I would love to see, if there is Metroid representation there, I really think it's time for that Prime trilogy to come over, don't you? I mean, we've been talking about Metroid Prime Trilogy HD for a while. Actually, every time a Direct pops up, we're wondering if they are going to bring the first 3 Metroid Prime games over like they've done before with the Wii, of course, and the Wii U is backwards compatible with the Wii, so they technically have it as well. And a lot of people are wondering, well, the Switch would be a great system to bring it to, since Metroid Prime 4 is going to be on the Switch, and since there are a lot of people buying the Switch that definitely did not buy the Wii U, as, well, there's a lot more Switches out there now than the Wii U very quickly, I think it makes sense, as I'm sure you do as well, to have Metroid Prime Trilogy come over to the Switch, and of course, they could take advantage of the Switch being much more powerful than the original Wii, and doing things like upgrading visuals, maybe smoothing it out, upscaling it to 1080 and 720 for handheld mode, and maybe even getting rid of that, or not getting rid of it outright, but options. You know, you can use gyro controls, or you can just use the regular controller, or maybe, well, of course, Metroid Prime 3, they would probably leave that. But for the other ones, we even have those GameCube controllers that we keep seeing. Wouldn't it be cool to like be able to use just the straight up GameCube controller for the first two, just as an option? I would just like to see a bunch of cool little control configurations. So I know there are people like gyro controls, and there are people who maybe just want to play it in handheld mode just straight up. But Metroid Prime Trilogy, long overdue. We need it before Prime 4. They did it for Bayonetta 1 and 2, and the Wii U was pretty recent. So they bring that over. Let's get that Prime Trilogy. If they're going to do it, I don't know if they'll show a Prime 4 trailer, even gameplay or cinematic or anything, but that trilogy makes a lot of sense. But if they do just the trilogy, I think there's going to be more on top of that. So the other big rumor that we keep hearing about is that there will be a Smash Bros. Character reveal there, which is odd because this is the day before Smash comes out. And the press would already have Smash. So reviews would have been written, embargo might have already been up by then. But from what rumors have been saying, it's not necessarily a character that will be in the game at launch and would be a post-launch character, whether a free update or a character that you would buy through DLC. I think we all figure Smash Bros. Ultimate will have DLC, right? I don't think anyone's pretending like they won't do that with how many characters they could sell through DLC and get more money. It would be crazy not to, because that's a situation where the fans actually want to buy more characters and wouldn't be annoyed like how Capcom will drop like 6 characters on you at launch and tell you to buy them. These ones obviously have a bit more work to go into them. So we could have a character show up here that's not necessarily out, you know, that same time. It could come out months later. It could be something like Sora from Kingdom Hearts. It could be someone from the Dragon Quest series, as we keep hearing there's a Square Enix character still out there. Those would be really cool to have a Dragon Quest character, or even Sora that everyone wants, or yeah, Goku. Sure, that would be fun, right? No, I think it probably will be someone like a Sora or just someone from the Dragon Quest series. But a Smash character makes a lot of sense to kind of throw in there. Now, if they want to get really crazy, we keep hearing about Retro Studios' project, this Star Fox Racing, right? Well, Starlink will have already been out, people would have already been buying it and everything, and I think that would have basically had its retail run at that point. When you go into Christmas, you're just buying these kind of things anyway for gifts, so the first, month or so will be out of the way for initial shock and impact on the retail stores. So I think they could show up there and say, hey guys, here is a brand new game from Nintendo. It's the Star Fox Racing game, whether it's Star Fox Grand Prix or whatnot. Of course, this would be something, generally the video game awards, usually it does draw a larger American audience. Obviously, it's in America, and they try to time it around that and everything. Now, of course, other countries and other parts of the world watch, but it's pretty clear that they do cater towards the American audience. So that's why, of course, Reggie, Nintendo America, everyone, they show up there. So if you show something from Retro Studios based in the US and everything, they would show, obviously, Star Fox that does well in the US, and Metroid that does well in the US. Metroid does not do well in Japan. So if you show up Star Fox Racing, that would be a really cool way to really just show up with some impact and say, hey guys, remember Retro Studios? Yeah, we didn't forget about them. Here's Star Fox Racing. Now, if they don't have Star Fox Racing and they don't want to show it for whatever reason, just still annoy us that Retro Studios is not there and won't be there, then they'll show up someday, I guess. A third-party announcement of some kind. We see this in their Nintendo Directs a lot, where there is a third-party announcement and then it's out later that day after the Direct. City Skylines was a great example recently. We had Hollow Knight show up randomly that day. They could do something like that, as Nintendo really likes to do that right now, where they announce a game and then it drops after the presentation. Last year was the DLC. Could they have another third-party, not necessarily indie, but not necessarily, big budget title? Yes, the problem is, that's insanely hard to guess. Really, really is hard to guess, and at this point, your guess is as good as mine as to who they could pull in, because we've seen some crazy stuff. City Skylines, Civilization, who would have thought of those? And having City Skylines ready to go that night, hard to say. But a third-party announcement, I think, would be the last thing, as I do think Nintendo wants to just represent themselves, pretty much. They don't want to really, I guess, show games that are on other platforms as well. Remember last year it was all Nintendo stuff. This year it'd probably be all Nintendo. So I'm going to go with, straight up, Metroid Prime Trilogy HD Collection, not Metroid Prime 4. And not necessarily because that shirt is, Reggie's wearing that shirt, just because I think it's time, and I think with the audience watching it would make sense. And then I am going to say they'll hit us with that Star Fox Racing. That'd be a cool place to do it, and it'd be a cool way just to kind of hit us with it, hit some impact, and then maybe show more following in 2019. And then I guess a Smash character. Those are 3 announcements. Last year we had 3 announcements, so that's what I'm going to go with. Let me know what you guys think down below, though, because I can tell you Nintendo does have stuff planned for the VGAs from what and I'm sure several other people have been here in the background. So yes, guys, get excited for the VGAs. Don't miss them, because it sounds like Nintendo is going to have quite a few things to show here, which is just pretty exciting. It's like a whole nother little mini Nintendo Direct thing, I guess, right, with announcements. Let me know what you guys think down below, though. What do you think they could show there that would make an impact, or what would you like to show there? You're allowed to say Metroid Prime 4 if that's what you want, but I do think Reggie's shirt is a bit of a red herring, not necessarily towards like something like the Prime Trilogy, just Prime 4. But let me know, guys, down below. Make sure you like the video if you liked it, dislike it if not, and I'll see you guys in the next video.